As a selfish person, Hunter x Hunter is a story that deeply resonated with me when I first read it, and one of the biggest reasons was how it depicts selfishness, not as a purely negative trait, but rather as something multifaceted. In real life, selfishness is seen as something bad, something to fix, but in Hunter x Hunter, it's never presented in just one way. We see selfishness in many forms, the good, the bad, and the insane, through the characters we follow, and I always felt that Hunter x Hunter teaches us that it's okay to be selfish. Just don't be a dick about it, or be full dick, your choice. Many probably forget, but hunters are presented in the story as selfish people, or as Jean calls them, egomaniacs. They are individuals who put their desires above everything else. To someone unfamiliar with the series, that might sound like a cast full of awful people, but Hunter x Hunter constantly challenges that assumption that being selfish is purely bad, and it's made painfully obvious when looking at the most heartwarming character in Hunter x Hunter, Leorio. Now you're probably thinking, he's not selfish, but he is. Hunter x Hunter presents different perspectives on selfishness. When we were first introduced to Leorio, we learned he wanted money, and I thought, pretty base, but very douche-like. But as we learn more about him, we see that his selfishness is deeply rooted in something noble. He wants to get money to become a doctor, to help kids who can't afford doctors and tell them it's free of charge. Because of his experience losing a friend as a child, he is driven by his personal goal. We the viewers have seen that Leorio has been willing to put himself first to pass the Hunter exam, even if it means fighting against friends. Leorio challenges that notion that selfishness is inherently bad. His selfish pursuit leads to positive outcomes, demonstrating that putting oneself first doesn't always mean disregarding others, and this is what it means to be human. I myself am one very conflicting bitch, and this is what resonated so much with me when I first saw Hunter x Hunter, and Leorio's not the only one to display a different facet of selfishness, which brings us to another interesting perspective with Killua. Interesting enough, Killua didn't start off as selfish, but rather becoming selfish is Killua's character arc throughout the story. Killua, as we know, didn't have anything he wanted to do in the first arc he was introduced in, the Hunter exam arc. He had no desires and just went to the exam just because. And guess what? As shown in the story and explicitly told to us by Jean, hunters are egomaniacs who put their desires first. The Hunter exam started with Killua being aimless, and guess who was it that Togashi wrote to fail the exam? Killua. Not a coincidence, he was the one who failed the exam, as hunters are those that hunt for their desires, and Killua, not having any, failed the exam. And for Killua, that was changing as the story went on, and for the first time in his life, during the last section of the Hunter exam arc, he spoke against his brother, saying he wants to become friends with Gon, that he just wants to be normal, seeking desires for the first time, but was put down by Illumi. Killua never puts himself first. His mindset has always been to listen to his dad and brother, and keep on doing his job, being a puppet, but that changed as the story progressed. Killua started gaining desire more and more, showing selfishness, where he puts himself first. He puts his desires, and it isn't a negative trait, as shown with Killua. The story progresses with Killua wanting more out of his life, which in turn brought happiness, friends, a purpose. Killua becoming a hunter is displayed as something positive, yet we've been told hunters are egomaniacs. Once again, Togashi challenging us, the viewers, and our assumption that being selfish is a purely negative trait. But as shown with Killua and Leorio, it can bring out the best out of them, or make the world a better place. Which then brings us to the perspective of a different kind of selfishness, that one would call self-destructive type of selfishness, displayed through Gon and Kurapika. Now Gon can be very selfless when it comes to his friends, and he's such a pure kid, but there's more to Gon, and one element of his character that resonated with me the most is his selfishness. Throughout the story, we see him disregard other people's wishes to pursue things his way, ignoring Wing wanting to fight, wanting to win a certain way in the dodgeball game, ignoring Bisky, which led to his arm being blown off. There are more moments like that in the story. Gon is someone who's very stubborn when it comes to doing things his way, and will will rarely change his mind once it's made up. But what makes Gon's selfishness even more interesting is how it ties into his relationship with Jin, as I fully believe this was a learned trait because of who Jin is as a person, someone who abandoned his son for his desires. And hearing Kai talk about Jin as this really super amazing guy, which led to Gon wanting to become like Jin because of how everyone talks about him. Everyone talks about Jin in an amazing way, which led to Gon having this very distorted view of the world and how one should put their desires first. And yet, the story never outright says whether this perspective is right or wrong, but rather just shows us that it can be both. It can be both good and bad, as shown with Gon. It's what leads to some of his darkest moments in the story. His willingness to put his own sense of justice and desire above anything else culminates in his absolute breakdown during the Chimera Ant arc, sacrificing everything to pursue his revenge. But there's also a positive to Gon's selfishness, and it's shown through all the relationships Gon has. The Hunter exam, for example. Gon putting his desires first to have everyone pass with him led to everyone having stronger bonds and also passing the exam. His desire to do whatever it takes to help Killua, Kurapika made all their bonds stronger and even influenced them to become better people. The same can be said for Kurapika, but unlike Gon, Kurapika's selfishness is born from tragedy. His entire existence is fueled by revenge against the Phantom Troop. He's willing to abandon morality, others, his own health to achieve the goal of destroying the Phantom Troop. But that selfishness of his takes on a different form, a different turn for the better, where it shifts to the strong desires to put his friends first, as shown in the York New arc, where he literally put his revenge second and is willing to do anything to get Gon and Killua back, showing that having strong desires and willing to put something first isn't always something negative. And that's what I believe Hunter x Hunter teaches us. Just know it's okay to be selfish. It's okay to have strong desires that take priority. Just know there are different types of selfishness, and the insane kind is shown through us with Hisoka. His selfishness is pure, unfiltered indulgence. He lives only for his own pleasure, seeking strong opponents and caring for nothing else, which involves the innocent and the not innocent in getting hurt. And that's what makes Hunter x Hunter so unique. It doesn't tell us that selfishness is good or bad. It just shows us that it exists in all its forms. Some characters suffer because of it, others thrive, some find balance within their lives, others lose themselves. But in the end, Hunter x Hunter teaches us that being selfish isn't something to be ashamed of. It's just part of being human, and it's okay to embrace it, as it can also lead to positive outcomes, like becoming a better person and finding purpose like Killua, or like Leorio, bringing a positive outcome to the world, or Gon, having a huge positive effect on people around you. But it can also be dangerous at the same time, so be careful. I hope you all enjoy my perspective on this topic, as I haven't seen many talk about this.